You're good to go, Kim.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call the meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to remind council and municipal staff that this meeting is being live streamed to the public. All council meetings are also recorded. Recordings will be available to the public on the township website. Physical attendance of the public at this meeting is not permitted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The purpose of our meeting this morning, the Council for the Township of Madawaska Valley deem it advisable to hold a special council meeting as allowable under section 3.1.6.1.4 of the procedural bylaw 2018-117 to review and approve the 2020 draft budget and to pass bylaws in relation to statutory requirements. This meeting will be held electronically under the Municipal Emergency Act 2020 and Municipal Bylaw 2020-32, section 3.6.7. Okay, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest this morning?
None.
None here.
Okay, I'm not seeing any. We'll move to the adoption of the agenda for Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. The recommendation is that the special council meeting agenda for Tuesday, April 14th, 2020 be approved as presented. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Bromwich. All those in favor? And that's carried. This morning we have a bylaw. We have bylaw 2020-21. It's a shoreline road allowance closure and disposition along Paw Lake in front of lot 21 concession 1, designated as parts 11 and 12 on reference plan 49R-19514, Geographic Township of Burns, County of Renfrew, CHA-2018-08. The recommendation is that bylaw 2020-21, being a bylaw to provide for the closing and stopping up of part of an original allowance for road along the shore of Paw Lake, lying in front of lot 21 concession 1, Geographic Township of Burns in the Township of Madawaska Valley in the County of Renfrew, being part of PIN 57548-0182 LT, and for the sale thereof to the abutting landowner, be given third and final reading this 14th day of April 2020. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Is there any discussion on the bylaw? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. We have some unfinished business this morning. It's our 2020 draft budget presentation. Sue, do you wish me to turn it over to Amanda, or did you want to speak to it? Who's going to speak to this?
I believe, thank you, Madam Chair. I think we will let the treasurer lead us through that budget package.
Okay, fantastic. Then I'm going to turn it over to Amanda. Good morning, Amanda, and thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. So previous to our last draft budget discussions, some extraordinary circumstances have been presented to us with the COVID-19 pandemic. Staff felt it necessary to review the previous draft budget that was presented, and we decided that it was best to cut where we felt it was more realistic within the revenues and then the matching expenses as well. So this draft budget that is before you, that you have been provided with, represents a general levy increase of 2.2%. This is down from the 3% previously. The discounted weighted current value assessment change in 2019 to 2020 property tax years compared is an overall 1.89% increase. So if you take that into consideration, the actual general levy increase for this budget is 0.31%. So we have summarized some draft budget changes on the first page. But I think that if it is good with the rest of council, we would move straight to page 5, and we'll go page by page. If you have any questions, there have been changes highlighted, and you have a color document in front of you, so it's more easily for you to reference where changes have been made. So if you'd like to move to page 5 of your draft budget, and as council has any questions, we can proceed and approach those questions as you deem necessary.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. So page 5 starts revenues. Has everyone got page 5 there? Oh, Councillor Proplinski, question. Councillor Proplinski.
Yes, good morning, Amanda. I have a question for you in relation to the gas tax. Where are we putting that?
Okay, so I have identified some areas. The $130,000 for the water and wastewater meter replacement, that has to be up for discussion. Then we have the 2020 gas tax, which is $125,076. And I would be proposing that it be applied to the 2020 gravel resurfacing. And then we have the $177,671 of OSIF funding. And I would propose we apply it to Smiglin Parkway project.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last bit.
So in OSIF funding, we have $177,671. And I would propose that we apply it to Smiglinski-Stopa Parkway project.
You're talking about new construction. That's it. Is this for the construction and paving and so on?
Yes, so it's a pulverized gravel double surface treatment. It's 3.2 kilometers of Smiglinski-Stopa Parkway.
Okay, and the one before that, it was 125,000. And what was that?
Yes, $125,076.
Okay, and where did that come from?
That's gas tax funding.
Also the gas tax, okay.
Yes. So we have two amounts of gas tax because last year we received a top up, which is that $130,000 that I proposed for the water and wastewater. And then we have our 2020 allocation of the $125,076.
So we received 255,000, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Amanda, could you just, I'm sorry, could you repeat what this year's gas tax was going to go towards?
I'm just going to share my screen here if I can find that. Okay. Sorry, I just tried to share my screen and it's not letting me.
Oh, it's coming.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. So right here we have gravel resurfacing
Okay.
of 140,000 within the transportation services. So I was proposing we use $125,076 of that. And then down here for Smiglinski-Stopa Parkway project, I was proposing we use $177,671 of the OSIP funding.
Okay. Amanda, or maybe Gwen can answer this. When you share your screen with council, can the public see it as well? Just wondering if somebody could answer that for me. I'm not certain. Can the public see the screen that's being shared?
Sorry, Tim, I'm watching it and it's so far no. There's
Okay.
a delay though from YouTube to what the meeting is taking place. So I'll watch it and see if it does change, but so far it hasn't.
All right, it did take a little bit of time for Amanda's screen to come up for council. So that's why I was curious to be certain it was also being shared with the public.
No, I believe it doesn't get shared with the public.
Okay, so the public does have an opportunity though to download from the internet the package which included the budget.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions on the page 5 revenues?
Sorry, Kim, it did show up. The screen is shared.
Fantastic. That's good to know that the public can see what council is seeing. We weren't certain, but Gwen has now confirmed that. All right. Are there any other questions for Amanda on page 5? Make sure I can see all of, I can't see Mark. That would be my challenge.
I'm here.
Oh, there we are. Okay. Yes. Thank you for speaking because now I can see if you put your hand up. So, no questions on page 5?
No.
Okay. Oh, Councillor Paplinsky.
Yes, thanks, Mary Love. I'm just not clear on how we decided to spend $130,000 from the gas tax on the water system. I wonder if somebody could explain that to me. You know, this money has been paid to the township as a whole. The users of the system in the village of Barry's Bay represents 15%, less than 15% of the population and the tax money. And I'm wondering how someone could just go ahead and suggest that we take the amount of 130,000 and apply it. I would be prepared to use 15% of that money, and I'd like to see the rest of it go into the sand dome, if it instead of into that the water line or water system. And that's why I really wanted to have this discussion before this meeting, hopefully, but I know time didn't permit, but I just don't think we should jump into it and do things like this without discussion of all of council.
So if I could speak, it is just a proposal. And that's why we're meeting here, for all of council to discuss if they wish. The federal gas tax funds can be used for public transit, solid waste management, capacity building, short line rail, broadband and connectivity, tourism, water infrastructure, wastewater infrastructure, community energy services, highways, brownfields redevelopment, sports, roads and bridges, local regional airports, disaster mitigation, culture and recreation. So within that itemized list, I had proposed the 130,000 for the water and wastewater project. If council wishes for it to be changed, we can certainly do that. But then we will have to draw down from life cycle reserves to offset those costs for the water and wastewater meter replacements.
So Amanda, you've provided the water and wastewater budgets at the end of our looking at the general taxation budget as well. This just isn't final at this point, it's a proposal.
Correct.
We have to look at the impacts on both sets of budgets to see where we are best able to use these funds and where they're most needed. It is council's decision whether or not they wish to use them in the way that Amanda has proposed. At this point in time, I think we need to look at the rest of this budget, and we can talk about the impact that we would see on this budget and the impact we would see on the water and, well, it's the water budget because it's the water meter replacement program. We can talk about that when we've had a look at what we have here. It's not a question of it not being discussed by council. It will be discussed by council. I don't know, council's thoughts on this, anyone? Did you wish to look at the budget first? Councillor Schulist.
Yes, through Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think the concern of Councilor Poplinski is the amount. There's a question here for Amanda. Has any gas tax money ever gone to the water system in the past?
From my past experience in reporting, I have not seen it. It's usually been identified for roadway infrastructure.
Right.
And that's typically where we
But you
study.
have all the places that we can use this money and all that. And so you came up with this number, and you can see that there's a need for that money to be put into that system. Money that has really never come out of the tax revenue. Gas tax revenue. So yeah, it's a good question here. Is there's a need for sure, and right at this moment, I have no problem with it. Maybe it is their turn to get a big, the piece of the pie. Thank you very much.
If I could just speak, this is just a recommendation, and it's for council to make that decision where the money is spent. And that's why every year we pass a recommendation from council so that it is clear on what the desire of council is for those monies. But to speak to the point that it's not just the local or the village users on the water and wastewater system, it's also the businesses within the community that are affected by the rates, which everybody would then see being affected, because we all within the community access those businesses. So we have to think about that infrastructure as well.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. I think Sue, you wish to speak?
Yes, please. Through the chair. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to touch on the point that at our first draft, the question that was asked, and it has been clarified, was can we take that amount and not put the full amount there? Could we put some of it towards roads and some of it towards water, wastewater? And you could. And just to clarify, the reason we make a recommendation is we always ask that there is a resolution so that it's clear to the province how we spend the gas tax. So at the end of the discussion, if it is whatever council's decision is, and because it had never been used before for water, wastewater, I think the treasurer just wanted to confirm with council as our budgets get tighter, what some of the options are to use for your gas tax. And one question that had been asked at the first draft was, is using it for the water meter replacement going to mean that every year some of the gas tax will go towards water and wastewater? And I think this was a unique, the only reason we suggested to put it towards that was because of the huge project for the meter replacement. But certainly I would propose that we continue with the budget, and that council, when you see the full budget, decide if they want all of it to go back to roads, if they want some of it to be distributed. But we did get that clarification for Councilor Poplinski and yourself. I believe you made the, you sought the question at the last meeting. So yes, it could be divided if council so decides.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bromwich, I can't see you, so I'm not sure whether you have your hand up.
Oh, I do have my hand up, and
Okay, well then I will turn it over to you. I'm sorry. I was
it's just that since Amanda put the spreadsheet up here, I can only see 4 people at the bottom. I think we're having problems with sharing the screen. I just wanted to mention we did. There we go. I just wanted to mention that we have discussed this a couple of times before. I missed the last meeting, but excuse me. I believe the reason we wanted to defer this money into water instead of roads was to keep a water increase, an increase in user fees down to a reasonable level. Without that going into water, Amanda, that would, it would be a fairly large price hike in the water usage rates, which is kind of against our economic development plans for the future. We're going to chase businesses out of town or cause a massive amount of questioning here as to how high the water rates are going to go so fast. I think it was trying to mitigate the increases that we were going to be able to, we would have to put in place. So I think there's a good intent on using this money in this one-time affair to offset the large cost of the meters. So it's further discussion, we'll have it, but I think that's the point, Amanda, wasn't it? The reason why we did this?
Yes, and we are in a different position, whereas previous years, we would only receive our annual allowance. But last year in 2019, the federal government provided us with a top up, which gave us that extra money to hold on to until we found a need for it. And so this was something that I proposed because I felt it was a need, as when we were looking at our water and wastewater budgets, I had identified what those rates would be if we were to increase it by 2% or 3% or 4%, and how that would affect our users. So, but again, it's up for discussion and for council to make that decision where those monies are spent.
Okay, so I think this is something we do need to look at the budget first. And it's a discussion we can have once we've at least had a pass through on our actual general taxation budget, which we haven't complete. I don't think we've completed one full pass through yet. Have we, Amanda? No, I didn't think so. So we have that question as one of the ones that's sort of sitting in the holding pattern to be addressed before we make any final decisions. But could we proceed with looking at the rest of the budget to see if there are any other questions or concerns? I don't see anyone objecting to that at this point. Let's continue. Were there any other questions on page 5? Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, Mayor Love, no, I have no problem with doing that, as long as we do go back and visit and getting back to the whole principle of, and I know several years ago when I questioned about why it was all going to roads, I was told that everybody in the township could use it, which I think is a fact. Now, I am prepared to spend a percentage on the water system, but I don't feel that $130,000 is fair to the rest of the taxpayers. And that's why I'm persisting on this. And I really do want to have a discussion, and I'd like somebody to be able to justify it more than the fact that, you know, we could put the money anywhere and it would be greatly needed. However, you know, every year at least, it's easier to budget for roads when we know we've at least got that the tire or the gas tax, you know, and it is something that everybody can use. So that's why I raised the issue, and I will continue to be looking for answers, and but also, and we have to think about the fairness of it all.
Oops, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry if I get a little confused for a moment. I've grabbed the wrong mouse because I'm actually functioning off of 2 computers. And I was just making a note. So I'm making some notes as we go. So as chair, that I can bring us back to some of these issues. Sue.
Yes, Madam Chair, if we could proceed, that would be great. And I think what you will find and where we can bring this back for discussion is when we get to review the work plan that the operations manager and operations supervisor provided, because that will show a clear picture as to what roads are proposed and how that gas tax would be used. So possibly if we want to put a placeholder there, we can discuss that when we get to that page with the work plan from the roads.
Okay, I'd actually, we understand what the impact is, but I'd like to also look at the impact on the water rates and what we would see and what we would need to have to address, because that is a component of this decision for council. So if we could, Amanda, we've got that note. We will come back to that. Amanda, then could we proceed? Are there any other questions again on page 5? Counselor Wilmer, I can't see, but I'm assuming no. Okay, did you want to, then page 6 is the rest of the revenues? Any other questions on the changes? You'll see changes on page 6 that were made to projected revenues based on staff's look forward with how the world has changed in terms of COVID-19 and the fact that we have many of our facilities closed. There are events that we will not be able to run in the immediate future. And Amanda, did you want to speak to some of those changes in fees, service charges, and other revenues?
So on page 6, the largest change that we made was we reduced the penalties and interest on taxes by 65,000 because we felt at the time that the budget was being reworked that might be something we would need to look at, and council has made a decision to hold off on charging any penalties or interest until June 30th. So that gives us a little bit of a cushion there within our revenues page.
Okay, I seem to have lost Councillor Bromwich. I don't know if he's had a connection problem, but I don't see him on my screen.
No,
I'm not sure what we want to do when we lose somebody. Do we want to give it a couple of seconds to see if they can get back on? Sue, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, we should probably wait. I will give him a call to see if he's having some issues.
Okay. If we could just pause for a second, we've lost Councillor Bromwich, and I'd like to do our best attempt to give him some time to get back on. He may just have been kicked off. The internet's pretty busy.
And maybe he lost power also. Who knows, right?
Mhm.
Amanda,
Yes.
I'm wondering if you wanted to clarify for council why 65,000 while we're waiting.
Because we made a consideration of up to August, the end of August, if need be, to reduce penalties and interest on taxes, because we were unsure, and we're still unsure, obviously, at this time of how long this difficulty is going to last and when the soft restart of the country is going to begin. And so it's a substantial revenue line for us, and we needed to make sure that we are not over analyzing or under analyzing, I guess, on our revenues for penalties on interest. So although council has made the decision to waive any penalties or interest on taxes until the end of June, we still have a little bit more room in case we need to extend that. Also, there are revenue lines that we are unsure of, and if we are able to recoup some of those, or if we are in a better position with some of those revenues, they will offset some emergency funding expenses that we are experiencing right now with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, all right. So we're going to proceed. Councillor Bromwich hopefully will be joining us very shortly. Just a little issue, and he's working on reconnecting. Does anyone have any questions on any of the items? You can see the changes that were made along in your printed package along the right-hand side. If they're kind of a dark orange color, those are reductions in revenue. And if they're green, that's an increase. Any questions on this page? Sue?
Not a question, just more a comment. Wanted to reflect that the dog licenses and fees has gone up. The public are very appreciative for council's decision to go to a lifetime dog tag as opposed to the yearly dog tag.
And that decision was made because it's actually more cost effective to the municipality.
That's correct.
Well, like, so both the dog owners and the municipality are benefiting. Okay, well, if there are no questions on that page of revenues, then will we move on to page 7, which shows revenues for parks and recreation and various recreational facilities. Amanda, were there any of these that you wanted to highlight?
The Paul and also the Combermere community events that are
Okay,
revenues have been reduced or 96.
okay, we're having trouble with our office internet. It's very choppy. So I know Amanda was referring to the reduction in the anticipated revenues from the Paul J. Yakubuski Community Center and the Combermere Community Center due to the fact that these facilities are closed and we anticipate may well be closed for at least the first 6 months of the year. So we do have rental loss and we do have revenues from bar that we will no longer be getting. Ah, there's Councillor Bromwich.
Sorry about that, folks. That stupid router. Thank you.
It's okay.
Where'd you go?
I'm back. Maybe just quickly, I'll ask, did you have any questions, Councillor Bromwich, on page 6 or page 7, which are all the revenues, and you'll see the reductions?
No, I've gone through that last night and this morning, so we're good with that one, if that's okay.
Okay, is there any questions on page 7 from anyone else? All right, I'm not seeing any. Then we'll move to page 8, which is our general administration budget. And was there anything on this that you wish to highlight, Amanda?
So within the administration salaries, we've reduced the cost of hiring a summer administrative assistant student. We've also reduced the staff training and the convention and seminar training amounts because we know that a lot of those avenues for training and conferences will not be available to us this year.
Okay, are there any questions on this page for staff? Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Love. In relation to cancellation of the courses and so on, I would like to council to consider reducing our allotment that's given for our seminars and so on. I know we've already spent probably half of our allotment, but I would be prepared to cut it any further. Courses or anything else that we don't consider really necessary at this time of greater need for these funds. So I'd be prepared to, and I don't know it's under the related expenses or it's included in the remunerations or where it is, but I'd be willing to see that turned back into the township for other uses.
Okay, it would be under council expenses, and unfortunately, most members of council have already expended a goodly section of that, going to either the Roma conference or the OGRA conference. Myself, I am booked for the AMO conference, so I'm not sure how we would be able to do that at this point in time, unfortunately, because typically the conferences that we attend happen early in the year, and they did actually happen this year. Oh, forgot to take my home phone out of the room. I'm sorry for the ringing.
Okay, so if I may continue, that
Yeah.
was a suggestion that I had. So, you know, I think it's important to have a discussion, like you had indicated that half of the money or so has already been spent. But that is an area that I would be willing to concede.
If I could just respond to that, Councillor Kuplinski, we did want to leave monies in some of those line items because with the ongoing situation with the COVID-19, again, we're not sure if there's going to be down the road some training opportunities or some meetings going on once the soft start begins. And so there might be some meetings that start popping up in the fall, or training sessions that people or staff and counselors may need to attend in relation to this. So we just
Yeah, I
wanted to-
realize it's not a lot of money.
Yeah,
It's not a lot, if I may, it's not a lot of money, but it is something that I thought I'd be more than happy to give up if it means cutting from another program.
Mhm.
If I could continue, I noticed on here the benefits, pay and benefits, the benefits in particular, we're dealing with a revising perhaps our costs going forward. Hopefully this meeting will do that. But this is something I noticed $86,000 for anticipated administration benefits, an increase from 69,000 in 1 year. And we've already talked about the significance of this and why we have to recognize that this is a problem moving forward. And what I'm wondering, I noticed it on some of the other pages in the departments where the cost of the benefits are all up like 20%. So is that something we should look at now, or, you know, put an X beside it, then revisit it after we deal with the benefit package?
So that's something we will be addressing. It is on the agenda for today's meeting. The budget was 69,000 in general administration last year, but the actual expenditure was 77,712. So it actually cost significantly more last year than we had anticipated. So it is on the agenda for us to discuss. There is an in-camera session. We will hopefully have a good result from that session, and then we will have to see how that impacts this budget further.
No, if I may, Mayor Love, yeah, we budgeted 69,000, spent 77,700. And now we're looking at 86. So we need to have a real serious discussion about this, and I'm sure that's going to take place. So I just want to mention that. But that same expense will show up on other pages, and I'm wondering, has the number there, has there been any consideration given to perhaps a bit of a reduction on it?
So that is part of what we will look at when we have our discussion after the in-camera session. What you're looking at right now is what the impact would be if we went with what has been presented to us. So this is, I guess I would consider that to be the maximum. Now, Amanda, did you want to speak to that? Yes.
So within the budget, the different departmental budgets, you'll see some changes within that line. So I have considered the increase in the group benefits package, and that's why those changes are there. And also, you know, as staff salaries increase, then there are increased costs. So I have worked those numbers into this budget. So this budget will represent the renewal that was presented to you. And so any discussions that are had after this meeting, if you know there are changes, will then reflect on the budget, whether it be, you know, up or down.
Okay, and there's not an increase in the benefits being offered. This is a situation across multiple municipalities where the increase is in the cost of the exact same benefit package. That's what we're looking at here. Our costs of benefits have gone up significantly. Sue, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you through the chair. I just wanted to add that we felt it was important to put in exactly what it would be in each department based on the increase that we've received, so that when we have that discussion and closed, council is aware of the actual impact.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the changes in salary are a result of having to go through a pay equity process. So those are basically legislated processes that we've gone through, and pay equity is pay equity. We really don't have much say in that. Correct? Who did you want to just mention? I just want to be very clear to the public that, you know, that any changes they see in this budget are as a result of pay equity and as a result of increases in the costs of benefits. And those are the things that we're going to be looking at. Definitely that's on the list. Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Love. I appreciate that. I just got one more question related to the fifth line from the bottom. And that's the the expenditure attributed to the Siberia Road water main expense. And can the treasurer assure me that that has been, the money has been transferred over?
So previously, within your budget package, you were provided with the report that we had discussed previously. The expenditure was sitting on the financial statements since 2004 in a prepaid expense. So following the council meeting in January and the resolution that I was given, or the recommendation that I was given from council, I notified the auditor to proceed with removing that expenditure from prepaid expenses and placing it on our financial statement to be realized as an expense in the 2019 year. There are options. We can take this off because the financial statements have not been finalized. We can move it back into prepaid expenses for further discussions. We can look at different ways of funding this expenditure. But again, I had provided council with a report and a recommendation, and this is why, or based on that report is why the expenditure is on this budget page.
So just, I'm not quite clear as to your answer, but you're telling me that it has been done and it can be reversed? Is that what you're telling me?
She told,
I'm not sure what you're telling me.
she said that there was a decision.
Pretty
of
simple question.
You said there was a decision of council. If you look at your agenda for today, there will be further discussion in camera with the details once again, and a final decision will be able to be made. So this again is another issue that it will be further discussed a little later on in the day when we get to that point. It has not been forgotten. It is still there. And, you know, clearly identified on the agenda as an item, which again, will have to be discussed in camera because of the details. But council will come out of in camera and make a decision in regards to that.
Thank you very much.
So not forgotten, clearly identified, and we will come back to it. Is there any other questions on general administration budget, page 8? Or page 9, which is the capital? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Amanda, I guess we'll proceed to page 10. Any questions on page 10? Everyone, no, I'm not seeing anything. There were no changes on page 10. Page 11, which is fire and protection. Any questions, concerns with 11? Again, it does show an increase to benefits due to the increased cost that has been presented to us at this point in time. Page 12, which is the capital for the fire department. Any questions on that? Okay, page 13, which is building inspection and septic inspection. Any questions on that at this point in time? Sue?
Just wanted to add, to remind council that I did provide them with a summary of revenues from January to December in your second package. I was just corresponding information that usually would have been on a council committee, as well as where we were at in the building department from January till March. It just depicts how busy it has been.
Okay, does council have any questions or anything that you wish to discuss on any of that? Where are we at then? Excuse me. How about page 14, bylaw and animal control? Not seeing anything. Okay, I guess we'll enter roads then. Page 15, roadway services budget. That first page. Any questions, any lines council wishes to discuss there? Not seeing any. Page 16 completes that. Oh, Councillor Poplinsky.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor Love. I gotta put my hand, I guess, over this way a little more.
Yeah, because I can't see it if it's off to the side.
Okay, I'm just wondering, the second line down with legal costs. I noticed we budgeted 20,000, we spent 4,500, and we're budgeting another 20,000. The other 14,000, did we spend that on something else last year, or did it go into reserve for legal matters?
I'll have to ask the treasurer to answer that.
We had discussed this earlier, and I believe it was part of the engineering costs. So if you look down towards the engineering costs, we had budgeted in 2019 2,000, and we actually spent 10,176. So the legal and the engineering and surveying, they sort of all work in tandem together with each other. They're all dependent on each other, and so it was just a matter of where the expenditure was itemized.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions on page 15 or page 16, which is basically roadway labor and maintenance expense? Not seeing any. Pages 17, 18, and 19 take us through vehicle expenses. Are there any questions on those pages? I don't believe they've changed since you last looked at them. Okay. Seeing any questions there. Amanda, if there's anything you wanted to highlight for council, I haven't seen anything but just, let me know as I go through this. Okay, page 20 is capital construction. Did you want to speak to that, Amanda? Hillary to speak to that.
So I can just say quickly, the Pogwick Road, within the previous draft budget, we had put in a higher amount just for a little bit of a cushion, because you're never sure with construction costs. But because the tender amount came in so low, the number that's in there, the $3.1 million, that is what we agreed to with the province and the federal government. And so that is the number that it's going to be, and it stays at that number because they have agreed, and we've all signed our legal documents that it will not go below or above that amount.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Hillary or for Amanda? Counselor Bromwich.
Thank you, through you, Chair, to Hillary and council. Is there any plans to address Chepeski Mill Road this summer for doing any kind of grading? Would that just be a day-to-day operation expense possibly? It's not listed on the capital expenditures here, but I know there's a petition been done, and I don't know if it's been offered formally to council. Maybe Sue, you could help me on that.
Sue?
Through the chair, I wonder, because we have the operations manager on, if this would be a good time to go through the report that was prepared by the operations supervisor and manager.
Okay.
It itemizes all of the roads. Sorry if it sounds like I'm stuttering. When I see my little green box go off, I imagine that I'm stuttering to you. So if I repeat, it's just to make sure you heard that.
Okay. So, Hillary?
It's just, I just wanted to mention that the main phone calls I've been getting is Chepeski Mill Road, and I think we've even had delegations come in our office about this in the past. And there's just one section of road on Chepeski Mill Road that seems to be causing the problem. That's at the end of where the pavement ends and the top of the next hill. There's a severe runoff there when it rains, and that was just the one little small portion of that road that's causing a lot of problems. And I thought maybe day-to-day operations might be more appropriate than putting it on a capital expenditure here, because we have never really had any engineering reports on that particular section. So I imagine just maintenance on that road would be included in day-to-day operations, Hillary, I guess. It's just that when we have complaints from the people that live on that road there, it'd be nice to tell them we're going to be addressing some of the issues on it. So that's why I throw it out there. Thank you.
Okay, Hillary, did you want to speak to that, please?
Well, for 220, Chepeski Mill Road is not identified.
No.
Uh,
No,
I haven't seen the petition yet.
neither have I.
Yeah.
But if there's a maintenance issue, you will be addressing it.
We do potholing quite often on that road. So it is looked after every week. We go out there and do whatever it needs to be done. Over.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Wilmer, and then we'll do Councillor Wilmer first.
Yes, just to follow up on that, my understanding was there was to be a delegation coming forward to council on Chepeski Mills Road, just prior to everything changing with the way we conduct business. So I think there are some people out there who are looking at doing a presentation to council. I know it's not on the agenda right now, but just so everyone is aware, I think there's a petition. I haven't seen it, but I know people, I was told there would be a delegation coming to council. I think that is coming forward.
Okay, Councillor Poplinsky.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Love. I concur with Councillor Bromwich, and I'm very well aware of the issue there. And every year we talk about putting it under maintenance, but it never gets done. Yeah, there's potholes are filled and a few other things. There is a drainage problem and a few other issues that should be dealt with. And I would like to see it in writing that we're going to do something about it. Okay. I don't care. You can put it under new construction, put it under maintenance, but I want to see it listed and I want to see it done. Thank you.
Councillor Wilmer.
Yeah, I just had a little pop-up on my screen from Gwen saying that there is a delegation request and also a petition has been submitted. So the township has that documentation. I guess it's just waiting until we can get back to a more normal way to do these delegations. I'm not sure how we can do them at this point.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to look into how that may or may not be possible. It's certainly any delegation can submit something in writing that council will receive. I'm not sure at this point if we have the capacity to have them join us, but we'll see what staff can come up with there. Councillor Wilmer? Oh.
Yeah, I believe the delegation request has been submitted. It's just that we are not able to entertain it right now. So, so the paperwork is in.
Right, and it's just a matter of us working through how we do this video meeting, and if there's some way we could actually have them join us by video. And we don't actually know how much longer we're going to be in this position, so we are going to have to figure out a way to accommodate delegations if possible. Okay, so Hillary, did you want to speak to the issue of whether this is a maintenance issue or it needs to be expedited as a capital project?
It should be expedited for, I would pre-populate it into 221, if anywhere. Just to have it there for, and we look at it, it's not good, but it's, you know, fair, it's safe, and it's, fortunately the road, it's a double surface treatment road, and there is quite a bit of truck traffic on that road. So it's not a cheap fix, I can tell you that. So I think the best answer would be to pre-populate it into 221 until we get some good background on that road.
Okay, so is it something we could look at doing some engineering on? It sounds like it's an ongoing issue, and we may want to have the engineer take a look at the situation so that when we look at it in 2021, we are actually going to fix the problem. Thoughts on that?
Yes, pre-engineering on that would be sufficient for 220.
Okay, and then you can prepare and budget for it in 2021.
Correct.
Okay, Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Love. And a question to Hillary. Was that road included in the roads needs study, and what were the issues identified?
I believe it is. Just grab it here. Gonna make it in. Yes, it is. It is in the roads need study.
And obviously, there's nothing mentioned, or I'm sure you'd have had it as a priority. Is there?
Well, like it's either that or another one, and they're both equally required to be repaired.
So what are the deficiencies there as identified in the report?
Out of a 10, it's a 6, along with every other one. Smugliski Stopa, Odd Lake Road, Hopefield. Well, Hopefield is 7. So it is equal to the other ones, according to the document.
Thank you.
Okay, so if we could have the engineer take a look at that this year, we do have engineering services budgeted, so that would be a good one to have them take a look at, and then you can make a plan looking forward to 2021, along with maintenance as much as humanly possible to maintain the safety of the road at this point in time.
Confirmed.
Okay, now, Sue, you mentioned that there was some documentation provided to council on the work that's going to be done for roads. Did you want us to go through that at this point in time with Sue?
Yes, provided council from draft 1, there were a couple of requests. One of them was the status of Ohio Road as it pertained to the surveys. We did get a response from Mr. Simpson as to where they were at with that project and timelines. So that is 2.2. And then the operations manager and supervisor, it was suggested after draft 1 that it would be beneficial for council to see what they were proposing as it pertained to amount of brushing, shouldering, locations, and what roads they were proposing to do as it in graveling. And I thought because Hillary is on the call, that possibly if you had any questions on that, if there's anything that they may have missed, now would be the time to ask them for that clarification.
Okay, did you just want me to take questions on those documents?
However Hillary wants to go through that, sure.
Hillary, did you want to go through it first and then take questions?
Yes,
Okay.
sure, let's go
Please
through it.
proceed.
Okay, so everybody has that in front of it. It's a performance report.
Okay, if everyone has it, Hillary, did you want to take us through it?
So is everybody on this section?
Yes.
We're good.
Okay, so it's a nice document. It kind of tells you where we are, where we should be going, and what our plans are for the future. So in pave, what is it projected? In 2019, we paved 3.5 kilometers. And for 2020, 14.5 is projected. 11.66 for Pod Lake Road, and the remainder 3.5 for Smiglinski Stopa Parkway. So then on gravel, actual was 11 kilometers. It's in the top box, and 14 projected for 220. The best you can do in the gravel is projected, because we don't know what the price will be per cubic meter. So that's the only way we can do this. So brushing. Table 2. Actual 16.9 kilometers. And then if you go to the third page, it'll tell you where we brushed. We can, so we kind of forgot to page number these, but no problem. It's a good document. Table 10. Oh, Ernie has a.
Okay, so what I'll do is maybe let Hillary finish presenting it, and then we'll go back and do questions.
So in
Finish
table 10,
presenting the document so that everyone's aware of what you wanted to say about it. You may answer a
Okay.
question in that process.
Okay, roads brushed in 219. Mapiango Road East, Creswell Road, and CN Tracks. Project, and then we might as well jump to projected roads brushing. It's just below in table 11. For 220. Table 11, projected Quebec Road, Murac Fleece Road, Well-Known North Road, and another section of CN Tracks. The CN Tracks in 219 was brushed from Wellno to the Rena Road. We got that far, that section. So we'll keep going west and we'll see how far we get. But it definitely needs it. And Comer Cemetery, that has to be hand brushed.
Mhm.
We didn't put anything, you can't measure that. That's our goal, the shore hand brush. Okay, now we'll go back to table 3. It kind of tells you where we should be with the equipment. 15-year life cycle on snowplows. And that you should purchase a new one every 3 years to make it sustainable. The 220 plan is 1. Okay, so I don't know why 10 got in there. There isn't 10 half tons. Okay, struck that out.
You're not buying a fleet this year, eh?
Okay, no. There is no.
Noticed it in the budget.
Okay, Ernie, yes? Do you
Yes, sorry. Looking at your table 10 and table 11, I noticed last year we budgeted 40,000 for brushing and tree cutting. We spent 32,000. And now you're going to budget another 40,000. Last year you did 16.9 kilometers. Looks like you're going to do 13 kilometers for 40,000. I mean, and you had a question mark down here on the railway tracks. And then there's 14 kilometers. What's that significance? Is that a suggestion? Maybe that's what the CN tracks are going to be?
It is. For the CN tracks, we have for trails. What happened last year, we had trails for brushing. And we should either have it in our trails or in the brushing category. That's what happened.
Yeah, because they don't use the big machine, do they?
Yes, on the tracks.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so getting back to my next point, you talked about the cemetery in Cumbermere, and you've got 0 down for it. Should that not be under parks? Right now, who maintains the grass? Is that from the Parks Department?
Parks.
Okay. Do we have any sort of reserve in the parks that we could utilize for the hand brushing? And right now, I'm trying to get some volunteers as well, and there are people interested in helping out. But if we could have something, decided on here, whether it's $500 or $1,000, would probably go a long way. But to put 0 down is not going to achieve anything.
Amanda, do we have in parks for the cemetery fund? I think there is. We should. You're on mute.
We have a care and maintenance account, but it's very small. I would have to look to see what's in that, but it's very minor, and it's mostly for when we have to do like some
You're breaking up, Amanda. I don't hear you.
Sorry. Yes, we do have a small care and maintenance fund for the Cumbermere Cemetery, but it's very small. It might be about $1,000, but not very much.
Okay, Sue?
If I may, that care and maintenance account under the Cemeteries Act is pretty much restricted just for the basic cutting of the lawn. What we're proposing to do is actually brush, and I believe if I heard right at the first draft, that this is something, since the tornado wasn't properly, like we didn't go back, we didn't finish. So I would suggest that is more like brushing and clearing. It doesn't matter if it's coming out of parks or not, but I don't have a separate line item that would address that previous work that needs to be done. It's very prescriptive how we spend that maintenance fund through the Cemeteries Act, and it's Chris's time and the selling of plots and whatnot. But I do agree, and I do agree with Councillor Poplinski. We need an amount that we think will be going towards that.
Okay, Councillor Poplinski, did you want to ask a further question or respond?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch you, Mayor.
Councillor Poplinski, you had your hand up. Did you want to?
Yeah, I wanted to see if we can set an amount. We have, I know we have a reserve in our parks budget, if it can be used from there. But I think we need to have something other than a 0 there on that line.
So Hillary, had you planned to pay for that through the roads brushing budget?
Yes,
Okay, so it's not a zero, it's just a component of that budget? Counselor Bromwich.
Not particularly on that item, but
Oh.
I just wanted to refer back to table 14 and the ditching here. I'm not an expert on this, but do you think possibly we have ditching of 2020 of McGlinskey, Stopa Parkway, Opeongo Road East, Quebec Road? If we put Chepeski Mill Road in there to be considered for partial ditching on certain items, would that maybe give us a little bit of a leeway here in starting the maintenance on that road? Not that you would ditch the whole thing, but there's certain areas in there that the runoff is causing problems. Possibly just doing a ditching on each side of that one hill that runs down and washes away from the pavement might be addressing that. And it might mitigate a few problems this year until we get it on a full budget. I'm just asking, that's all, yeah.
Oh, okay, Hillary?
that would be a wonderful approach.
Would it
To,
help?
Do some
Yeah.
ditch, that would be wonderful.
It might be a good start to maintenance,
Yes.
I mean, final maintenance
Just-
on the road, but
I'm
Just
just
to
gonna look
address-
back at how much there is in ditching.
I just thought maybe putting the name on there would at least get it on the blackboard to be dealt with this year.
Okay, and obviously seek the engineer's advice
Mhm.
before
Mhm.
ditching so that it's effective. So
I
Hillary,
like that approach.
put that in the budget number that you've already presented in terms of ditching, and I'm going to come back to the brushing issue. I didn't realize Councillor Bromwich was not going to speak on that issue.
No.
Okay, Hillary, can you include the ditching on that road in your budget?
Correct. I'm just looking at the line for, how come I can't find it? For ditching, was it 30 or on the
No, you got 15,000.
15? Okay. I thought there was a little bit more. You need about 5 or so to do a little bit. So if we could come up with another 5 somewhere for Chepeski Mill, it would solve a lot of issues.
So are you informing us that we need to take the ditching line from 15,000 to 20?
Correct. Yes.
Amanda, did you capture that?
Got it.
Okay. All right. So then I guess I'll come back to Councillor Poplinski's question about the brushing at the cemetery in Cumbermere. How does staff want to address that? Give Hillary a second while he makes that change.
Well, Sue,
Sorry, Sue.
Just want to clarify the chart that you have, Hillary. So I believe the 14 kilometers is your total. Is that correct? It's the
14,
one
it's,
point-
yeah, it's an estimate. Like,
Okay.
nothing's perfect in this game. Because if it's heavy, if it's,
Okay,
it's a
so-
guesstimate.
So as staff then, so what I understand from this is your list of what will be done with the budgeted amount for roads brushing, which includes Quebec Road, Merritt Police Road, Willow North Road, C and tracks. And then Cumbermere Cemetery as well is included in that.
Yes. But if you want a separate line item, like from parks into the cemetery, it might be a wise idea. Maybe it's a simple flip, change brushing from 40 to 39 and shift 1,000, but it is a little bit more.
If I may, with my old treasurer hat on, that would mean creating another object code. Because this is specific to righting a wrong, I think, and just going back to do a good brushing. If we could leave it within that budget, but ensure that it's listed as needing to be done And that would be great. I just wanted to go back to the question mark on CN Tracks. I think, Hillary, last year, if I look back at the council decisions when we were doing the budget, is we had said an allotted amount. So we had said, I forget what it was like $6,000 for the big
10.
skid steer, or 10. And that's why you don't know how many kilometers, because it depends on how much they get done in a day, correct?
Correct. You have
Okay.
to fit 10,000 into how far they get.
Okay, so then if I made the clarification to council, then is not so much that we don't know how many kilometers go there. You have an allotted amount for the rental of that skid steer.
Yeah, we're estimating eight last
Eight
year
last.
for 10, so that's how we kind of come up with something.
So you're going to maintain the $40,000 line item in the roads budget under maintenance expenses. And you are going to ensure that the Cumbermere Cemetery is done as a part of that. And then, having completed the projects you've identified here, plus the Cumbermere Cemetery, if there are any funds left over, those will be the funds used to brush on the CN Rail Trail as far as that gets you, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we're clear on that. Does that address the issue at this point, Councillor Poplinski?
I think it addresses it very well. And the fact that if we can put it in writing, I know it'll get done. And thank you for the long discussion on it, but I think it is very important. And but you've answered and answered my question, and I think I look forward to moving on.
Okay, are there, Hillary, have you finished presenting to us all the tables you wanted to present?
There's table 12, good
Okay.
old streetlights. So everybody at table 12?
Yes.
Streetlights in 219, we put in 3 of them. And then for 220, it's the only outstanding written request so far on my docket is for Ohio Road. So if I can find locations, as soon as the budget sets, I'm gonna go search locations. It's hard to find locations for streetlights. You need a transformer close by, and there has to be a pole. If you start dabbling in poles, it's very, very expensive.
Right, so you're looking to accommodate the request based on the existing infrastructure.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
Or you're into it, big expense. So then ditching, table 13, Losky Drive. That worked in tandem for another, the capping of the dump. So that's somewhat tentatively finished. The capping of the dump, we have a few things to sort out, but that's coming.
Mhm.
And then ditching for on table 14, 220 estimated.
Okay, so you'll be adding Chepesky Mill
The Pesky Mill,
to that, and you have added 5,000 onto the budget
Yeah.
line item, so it now says 20.
right in Chepesky Mill in that box.
Okay,
Chepesky Mill. And I'm not gonna put a link, because I have no idea.
okay,
But the good thinking, that's good ideas with Chepesky Mill. That'll help for 220.
okay. Is there anything
Okay,
you wanted to say on those pages? Are we good with, you're good with presenting those pages, Hillary?
yes,
Okay, so are there any questions from council on those pages that haven't been answered so far? Sue?
Not a question, just a comment. I wanted to thank Mike. Please extend my thank you to Michael Phillips, our operations supervisor, as well as your collaboration with this. What I really loved about the report, and possibly because we haven't mentioned it, I just want to highlight that I like that you included a sustainable level, which says what we thrive to do yearly. For example, your road rehabilitation to pave, we try to attain 7.61 kilometers, and projected in 2020 is 14.5. The gravel, we strive to get 12.47 kilometers. You're proposing 14 kilometers. And then brushing, last year you did, the plan was 10 kilometers and you did 16, and we're proposing 14. And I love to see the that we do have a level that we try to do every year. So thank you for that.
Mhm. Yes, please, thank you, Mike, for
Okay, I will.
producing
Nice
that.
document, yes.
It is a nice document, and if we could possibly get that in advance of our first go through the budget next year, that would be fantastic. An updated version. It helps council to know what has been completed in the previous year and what staff is looking to do in the coming year. So that's great. Sue?
I'd like to propose, Hillary, that we get that document late October, because that's usually when we try to get something to the treasurer and to council to say what projects have been completed or not. So possibly bringing that to council and committee in the end of October might be beneficial.
Very good.
Thank you.
And Mike, we regret Mike couldn't be here today. He's a lot of trees down. He's chasing trees. I might go join him after and try and see what's out there. Who's out
Okay. No, yes, it was very windy last night.
there.
Councilor Kaplinski?
Yes, Mayor Love, just going back to the street lighting capital budget, it mentions that the locations for the street lights are to be identified. So have we identified the only site that's being requested? Has that been being moved ahead, or more? Is there more discussion, or what is the status of it?
Yes, it's in the budget. If I can find locations for 220, the objective.
Sorry, are you still looking for locations?
Oh, once the budget is set, I'm going to go searching.
But it says here locations to be identified with regards to which streets or which roads.
For streetlights.
Yeah.
No, I have on the bottom box, I have Ohio Road, 1, 2, I don't know, and a question mark. And I have written requests from ratepayers on file.
Oh,
That's the only one.
I'm looking on page 24, actually.
24 of the budget?
Yes.
Okay, so in the other information that Hillary provided to you, it states the location he's looking at is on Ohio Road. He has to go and look at the specifics of exactly where for those possibly two
Okay.
lights that have been requested. We'll be looking on Ohio Road. That's
Okay.
that's what he has indicated.
Okay, thank you.
Amanda, is there rooms in them boxes on the budget to be writing in there?
Yeah, I can put those items in there.
Yeah, I don't know how much room it allows you to put in there, like writing, but maybe it would be nice if you can. Then it follows you, it tracks it.
Mhm. I think the report that Mike Phillips gave us also tracks exactly where is being proposed in terms of the general road. It's a question that you have to go and look at the specific exact location and see if there is an opportunity to put a streetlight there. Correct, Hillary?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that was my understanding from what you said. All right. Any further questions on the pages that were provided separate from the budget from our roads department about brushing, ditching, streetlights? Is council good with the information, the additional information? I'm not seeing any other questions on that. Are we done with the construction capital budget on page 20? Any further questions on page 20? Seeing any? Okay, page 21, equipment capital budget. Questions on 21 for staff? Not seeing any questions on 21. Page 22, capital reserve budget. Any questions there? Councillor Bromwich.
I'd just like to make a comment about our Sand Dome Reserve here. I think we're actively looking at a new quotation on it from Ogra. I had a meeting with the actual salesman for the Sand Dome. And last year at Ogra, the price came in very, very high. It was unbelievable, but it was an engineer that was quoting it. I actually talked to the sales manager of the company that does the dome, and the price might be very respectable this time. And I think Mike is actually working on getting a quote from them. So this reserve of 150,000 for the next 3 years, we might be looking at having to reduce that to zero if we might have enough money in the bank right now for it. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. So don't let that scare you off too much, the 150,000 for the next 3 years. I think we might be very close to be able to afford a Sand Dome at this point in time with the budget we're putting in for this year. Just wanted to make a comment on that. Thank you.
Okay, I think at the end of this year with the 80,000, we're at just under 315,000. So certainly, I don't know if there's only one manufacturer of sand domes, or are there multiple that they'll get quotes from?
There's only one major manufacturer that really anybody even uses in Ontario. And we're looking at $400,000 is the ballpark figure. So we're getting close. And the building, I said, how long would it take to install this thing? He said, 2 weeks. And the actual fabric over the dome is guaranteed for 5 years. Every 5 years, you have to replace it, which is $20,000. So once the initial expense is there, it's very low cost factor to maintain it. And I got the straight goods from this fellow. He's been in the business for an awful long time. He's all the large domes, especially down in Durham. I passed one that they built down there. It's a pretty fantastic looking dome. So anyway, that's all I can give you there. Thank you.
Okay, Amanda.
So those numbers, those high numbers year after year after years, because my understanding was we eventually will need 2 sand domes. And Hillary can correct me if I'm wrong. And Hastings Highlands also tendered for a sand dome this year. And I was wondering if Hillary can just provide us with if he knows what the ballpark number is, what they received this year. Hillary?
It was on the high end of 400. 400,000, 475. I can confirm that number.
And we'll need 2 sand domes eventually?
Yes, you need one on yard 1 first and then yard 2. So we have to start this all over again. Joy, oh joy.
So if we can continue next year, if we're able to put that 150,000 in next year, we should be in a good position to be able to tender for a sand dome in 2021.
Okay, great. So are there any other questions on page 22? I'm not seeing any. Questions on page 23, streetlights? Or page 24, which is the capital budget? I think it's already been identified where the streetlights are proposed. Okay, not seeing any questions there. Amanda, do you want to just continue through your budget page by page, or do you want us to complete with Hillary before we?
I thought that if we would just continue with page by page, it might be easier for everyone so that we don't get confused with the page numbers, but if
Okay,
everyone's feeling comfortable with their budgets, we can just skip over if they would like.
Hillary, are you okay with hanging in there for us in case we have to come back to you?
No problem.
Okay. So, well, let's try continuing page by page because it's less confusing. Page 25, municipal properties budget. Any questions? No, not seeing any. Page 26, waste disposal. Any questions? Not seeing any. Waste disposal capital is 27. Okay, not seeing any questions there. Page 28 is library services. Any questions on that page? Not seeing any questions. And 29 is the capital for library. Okay,
Get out now.
sorry, Hillary?
Just mute out.
Okay,
Look further ahead and I'll be in the background if you.
okay. All right, page 30, planning and development budget. There was no change there. Any questions for staff? Not seeing any questions. Page 31, emergency preparedness, and I believe 32 is the capital for emergency preparedness. Are there any questions there? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. All right, the next one is page 33, economic development budget. There were some significant changes. Oh, wait, Councillor Pawlinski, did you have a question about the?
Yes, Mayor, if I could go back to page 31.
Okay,
Especially in light of what we're dealing with right now with this pandemic. And there's $1,000 here for training and education. What is it? What exactly will that entail?
I'd have to ask the operations manager. Hillary, could you speak to that? Okay, I have to get him first. Hillary,
Yes.
could you speak to what the $1,000 training and education budget is under? Wait a minute, what page? Sorry, Councillor Pawlinski, which page?
Page 31.
31, under emergency preparedness. Is it anything to do with Hillary? Oh, no, it's not. I'm
Oh,
sorry. I
that's
apologize.
okay. Okay.
It's Sue I need.
If I may, through the chair, that is, has already been spent. That was the IMS 200 training that we sent our CEMC. If you recall, it was a short window. He's been waiting to go to that training. I forget if it was IMS 200 or 300, but it was a required course. And it was in Ottawa, so that has already been spent.
Okay, so that was the mandatory training for the CEMC. Anything further, Councillor Pawlinski?
Yeah, should we be looking at, in light of where we're at right now in the middle of this pandemic, should we be putting something there?
So there's $1,000 there now. And that is the amount roughly that has been spent, correct? I'm gathering.
Close to that, yes. I think I don't recall, but I think it was around $700, I think.
That's right.
Okay,
So there's nothing that you're aware of that we should be considering then at the moment? Like in addition, because when this was done, I'm sure there was no idea of what was coming down the pike. You know, and I'm not sure what the IMS, what that was all in, what it was, but is there something that we we're missing here? I'm just trying to be careful and
Okay, Amanda?
So although we don't have a dedicated line for the COVID-19 pandemic within this emergency preparedness budget, staff have been making sure to be diligent on their salaries lines. So to identify the time that has been worked for those seminars and training and staff meetings and any work that's done with regard to that. And so there will be salary amounts that will shift from general admin or public works that will begin to hit the emergency preparedness line. But right now we don't know the extent of what's going to happen. And so we're just keeping track of expenditures and salary expenses in case that there might be some sort of funding available for us to realize those savings. I'm not sure if that answers your question, Councillor.
no, it does. That's basically what I wasn't sure how you were working that out, but I noticed the very top, you've got salaries, $1,500, and I assume that would have been then charged back to wherever, it came from. But no, I'm just trying to be proactive here, that's all. And because we don't really know what we're going to be facing with. So obviously you're dealing with something, some consideration. So that's good. Thank you.
Sue?
Yes, just to elaborate on that, we are treating this no different than when we were doing claims for the tornado. We ask all staff to identify the time spent, whether it's within their day or if it's overtime, and we are submitting it to the treasurer. There may not be any money coming back to us, but I do think it's important that we as a municipality can track what that cost has been to us. So the treasurer has been overseeing that, and I think that was a great suggestion.
Well, knowing that fact that there's no commitment on the other levels of government, it just makes it more, we should be more aware that that's why we have to really look at the bottom line. And the money, if we don't need to spend it, don't spend it, because it may be needed down the road. So hopefully that's the way we're proceeding, and we'll get through this. Thank you.
Okay, all right. If there's no further questions on emergency preparedness, which was page 31 and Sue, yes?
Just a reminder, when we had the first draft, it was requested that we not forget to ask the fire chief about the generator. So I'm not sure if there was still questions about the generators.
Yes, because we have a capital budget of 20,000 and the concern was it wasn't going to be sufficient. So Corey, would you like to speak to that?
I have phoned about 4 different companies in the local area to get us a quote. This pandemic has now showed up and people are afraid to come out to actually look at the recreation center come here. So waiting after this comes in, give more of a proper quote or report to council to explain what the actual cost will be to put a generator into the Cumber Community Center. So I'm still waiting back on people to travel down here. But like I said, right now they're a little nervous, and that's what happens, sort of throw things for a loop at the moment.
Okay. Amanda, do you know if we have anything in reserve towards this? Just looking
We have emergency preparedness reserve. So we budgeted 20,000 this year, and then we have 12,500 being placed into that reserve as well that we could draw upon should we need to. That would leave us with 7,600 in the balance. So it may be a matter of doing the legwork, getting the RFPs or the RFQs out this year, and then looking towards 2021 for the generator. Or drawing from another reserve, whether it be like a recreational building reserve and a fire building reserve. to offset some of those costs.
Okay, so if we don't make the expenditure this year, we would have 35,000 in that reserve.
Yes, but without having a proper RFP, it's difficult to budget the amount that we might need.
Okay.
So
Okay, are there any further questions on the issue of the generator at this point in time? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Did we want to take a small break before we proceed into economic development and recreation? Can we do that? Councillor Poplinski?
Make the motion.
Okay, so move that let's say we take 5 minutes. Can I get a seconder? Second by Councillor Bromwich, all those in favor? And that's carried. We'll take a 5-minute break and then come back.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
No,
There we go. Okay, everyone, we're starting to come back. I'm still down one member of council, so I'm just waiting a little bit longer.
Anybody home? Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, can't see you. Okay, I don't know what that was, but we're back. All right, let's back up. Okay, I can see Councillor Schulist. Oh, I've got all members of council. And I've got Amanda and I've got Sue. All right, so with that, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. And our next budget page is page 33 in your package, which is economic development. Amanda, I wondered if there was anything on this page you wanted to speak to, any of the changes.
So the changes, we have decreased the convention and seminar training costs because again, they are being canceled as every day goes by. Municipal beautification expense, we had decreased that, although it is around the same amount as budgeted for 2019. And then the breakfast seminars, we were hoping to have 2 business breakfast seminars for 2020, and we've decreased that by 1, hoping that in the fall or late fall, we'll be able to still manage pulling off.
Okay. All right, are there any questions on the changes or on the economic development budget on page 33, and the capital component is on page 34? Any questions? Councillor Wilmer.
Just on the municipal beautification expense, I know we've maintained what we did last year, or actually increased slightly, but what did we take out by eliminating the $4,200?
There were some different kinds of planters that we had hoped to purchase, desert type of planters. Stephanie, if you want to speak to that a little more.
Sure. So what we were planning on buying quite a few more. With this budget, I'll still be able to purchase a few Our hope was to do a trial and see how they worked. So some planters will be purchased, however, not as many as we had hoped. So either way, it's still a trial.
Okay,
Right.
Wilmer?
And that was my thought, because I know we were planning on doing the trial. So as long as we can do that, because I think we want to see how they work before we start replacing all of them anyway. So as long as we're able to still do that, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions on page 34 on economic development? Not seeing any questions. Okay, we'll move on to page 35, which is Parks and Recreation, the general administration budget. Are there any questions or any discussion on that budget? And the capital is page 36 for that budget. Any questions? Not seeing anything. Any comments? Okay, so those ones are fine. Mad Valley programs and events is page 37. And Amanda, just I noted in going through that we had actually taken out the $1,200 that were in summer camp, and it just didn't get identified. It had been in there before, but we took it out through discussions about what might be able to happen, and it just didn't get identified. So just to point that out, there had been $1,200 in there for summer camp. Are there any questions on page 37? I do think that in the package of information you were provided, there was a breakdown of the Christmas party, the revenue and expenditures. So just to reassure council that it actually did make a modest amount of money. I think that was the question from earlier. Councillor Wilmer.
Just again on, because a lot of our summer programs, which are up in the air right now, are grant based. I was just wondering, Stephanie, have we received any grant information yet, or any approvals?
Not that I've been in contact with anybody, no. Just that the announcement from the federal government saying that the Canada Summer Jobs Grant would now be paid 100%. We had applied for all of our students through that grant, so we'll see what comes out of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I think one of the things, there were a few things that are left in here at the moment because in part they're offset by grants. One of them is the swim program. Staff was hoping certainly that we would be able to possibly run maybe a later swim program in the year if things turn around and we're able to do that. Canada Day, again, we may have to put our thinking caps on to come up with a way that as a community we can celebrate without getting together. But it's left in here because it's completely offset by a grant. So it makes no difference to taxation. I'm trying to remember, Stephanie, was there anything else we left in with the hope of being able to do something?
I don't think so. Just the students that we normally have, and yeah, no.
Okay. So we didn't want to cut everything if it was mainly offset by a grant in case the world turns around and we are able to offer some things to our community. Any thoughts from council there? Are we okay with that? Councillor Wilmer?
Yeah, no, I'm okay with that. I think we have to leave it and just see what unfolds. But just when we were talking about students, we have applied for the grants for the students for the information centers too, correct? That's still in there too. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think we just have to see how it unfolds. None of us have any idea. And as you say, it's grant money and we'll see what happens.
Okay. So if there's no further questions on page 37, we can move to page 38, which is the Paul J. Yakabuski Community Center. And maybe Amanda, you might want to speak to some of the changes here, or maybe Stephanie. I don't know who wants to address them. I'm game for either of you.
I can start off. So
Okay.
we've done some reductions in salaries, just sort of look closer at the numbers and discussed the work that needs to be done and identified based on what's happening right now, what the needs are going to be for that community center. It's still unsure right now how things are going to play out within the next couple of months. So we are being quite liberal, I think, with the salaries, but again, we don't want to short ourselves out here. Ball field maintenance, we had planned some work to be done, but again, if there's not going to be any rentals, it's difficult to justify the costs when you don't have the revenue streams coming in. And then we've also had to reduce liquor and beer purchases and mixed purchases because we will not be having those events. And then towards the capital expense side, we've shifted some projects over to 2021. Stephanie, did you have any comments on that?
No, I think that's all. The conversation I've had with the ball people is they were willing to run a late season, but I don't know how anybody can predict that. So anything that we do there will allow it to run the way it did last year. The projects that we've shifted to 2021, I don't foresee any major need in 2020 for them. So we're planning to go ahead with that in 2021. Except for the engineering for the ice plant, which is still on your capital budget. And we'll have to look into planning for that in the next couple months.
Okay, are there any questions from council on page 38 or page 39, which is basically the budget for the Paul J. Yakubowski Community Center? Any questions, comments on that budget as you see it changed? Okay, I'm not seeing anything from anyone. Then we'll move on to the Combermere Community Center. And Amanda, did you want to go through the highlights of the changes there?
Again, so we're very limited with our revenues because we will not be able to rent the facility as far as we can see so far. So we've had to reduce some costs. We've taken down the building maintenance cost, liquor and beer purchases, and we've reduced electrical and lighting as well. So we've cut, as much as we could foresee. Anyways, it's difficult to project for the future of something that nobody knows is when it's going to end. So.
Okay, and Stephanie, did you want to speak to that, or are you good with where Amanda?
No, I'm good with that. Yep. Okay,
so are there any questions from council on Combermere Community Center, which is page 40, and the capital budget, which is 41? Councillor Poplinski. Oh, Councillor Poplinski, we can't hear you. You need to unmute yourself.
Well, I haven't touched anything, so.
I think Gwen muted you.
Somebody pulled the plug on me.
Okay, so we can hear you now. So if you wanted to proceed.
Question regarding the permanent liquor license. Was that granted?
I have not received a response from the Liquor Control Board as of yet. I've sent multiple emails. I've followed up. We were waiting on their final permit. All the inspections have been done. I wish I had a better answer for you.
I know it's not relevant right at the moment, but down the road, once everything gets settled down, it would be nice to be able to have that in place. So I would encourage to continue to try and get that information. Is it something that we need to do? Is it something that the ball's now in their court?
Amanda?
So administratively, we've had all our paperwork completed by the end of 2019. And we have been sending emails, both Stephanie and myself have been sending off emails regularly to the AGCO contact. But we're just not getting responses. So I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I would encourage to continue to do that.
Mhm.
My other question is relating to the electrical issues in the kitchen. And I noticed we're not budgeting anything, and I believe that they've had contractors in there looking at that. Is that not the case? And there were some,
Or what electrical issues you're speaking of in the
there were
kitchen?
issues with not being able to plug in several different heating elements at the same time.
And
I
what was
understand
it?
there was some electrician or contractors looking at it back in the fall.
There's been multiple quotes received for the hall itself. And I don't remember that conversation, but I'll follow up with Judy because she's been the one getting the quotes for what we've been asking to have done around there. And that budget, depending on what we choose for lighting, should probably cover, if not close to what we need with the budget that's there, depending on what needs to be done in the kitchen, I guess. I wasn't aware. We
So
added,
those quotes that you've received, is that something that you could make available to us?
by all means, yeah, I have them here in my office. If you'd like, I can forward them to you.
Okay.
Well, I won't be coming into your office, but maybe you
Can
could somehow
scan.
send them electronically or,
She can forward
because
them.
this is something that needed to be done some time ago, was identified several years ago. We've had people in quoting, and now I see zero for the expenditure. So I just,
And the
you mentioned that
3,000.
Well, there was electrical updates done last year. So that was the line that was in there from last year. So 2019, we had plugs installed in the kitchen in Cumberland. And that's what that line was for.
okay, so you're saying that all the work got done that in the kitchen?
In 2019, we had plugs installed, correct?
So there was $2,037.44 spent in 2019 on the kitchen electrical. The 3,000 that is budgeted is for the stage, the electrical and lighting on the stage and dance area.
Yep.
So this is a different project. Sue wanted to speak to this.
Just wanted to clarify, does this year's budget also include, I think there was plugins at the back of the hall as well?
I've received a quote from that just recently. So that was made aware through Cumbermere Recreation. And I have that quote as well. And that can be taken care of through the regular building maintenance budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions on page 40 or page 41? I'm not seeing any. The next budget is the railway station budget, page 42 and 43 of your package. Does anyone want to speak to the changes here? Maybe Amanda?
So we included $2,500 for the station keepers, as there was a report that was previously submitted to council from them. And then there is within our capital expenditure, there is a request for the Railway Museum sign. So it kind of looks a little funny because you have a negative $8,000 on your budget amount. But that is because in order to offset that cost, we are going to draw from the railway station gallery surplus deficit account rather than taking from the general coffers to offset that cost.
So it's an opportunity to reinvest some of that money into the railway station.
Correct.
Are there any questions from council on the railway station budget? Any comments? Okay. For a moment there, I'd lost Councillor Bromwich, but I have him. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything. Oh, Councillor Bromwich.
Thank you. I'm just having problems with the internet here. We got some high winds up here and it keeps cutting out intermittently, so I'm off and on. It just keeps rebooting. So if you lose me, don't worry, I haven't gone anywhere.
Okay, all right. I just lost you for a second. Okay, questions again, Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, my question is related to the salaries. Is this for the summer students?
So a portion of that will be for summer students, and then there's always salary amounts that if Public Works goes and does some work, some minor work over there, then those hours get attributed to that line. But the majority of it is summer students. So if we do receive that grant, I believe we've applied through the federal Canada Summer Jobs for that. If we do receive that, it'll be 100%, and therefore we will realize some savings. But again, based on what is going on right now, we don't know if the visitor center will be able to be open.
Thank you.
Amanda, is the student for the Mission House Museum, where are they in this budget? I've forgotten, but there would be the same situation there. We've applied for a position, but we don't know if it's going to happen. I'm just curious, where is it in the budget?
I believe it falls within there. Stephanie? I believe so, because it's part of visitors center type. Sorry, Stephanie, I cut you off.
Yeah, no, I believe it's in that budget line as well.
Okay. So that would be all the students we've applied for to do visitor information.
Correct.
I thought it might be because I couldn't recall it being anywhere else in the budget off the top of my head, but okay. Are there any other questions then on the page 42, 43 railway station budget at this point in time?
Done.
Seeing any? Okay, we'll move to Lakeshore Tennis budget on page 44. Amanda, did you want to speak to that, or Stephanie?
It doesn't matter. So she's gotten, the salary line has been reduced. We've taken away the student. So the new students we were proposing, we're pulling back. And besides that, nothing else has changed in this budget line.
Okay. Any questions from council on that? All right. At this point, then capital budget. Any questions on the capital for Lakeshore Tennis? Straightforward. Okay, Parks and Recreation Parks budget starts on page 46 and page 47 are the two pages. I don't know if someone wants to present. Amanda?
Okay, so there is a trails expense line that we've significantly reduced. So that was previously we had identified some issues with our walking trails, and it was our hope to hire a student to help get us on the path to clean up some of those trails, or at least start on one trail. But because of the situation again that we're in, we felt that it might be the best to reduce that line for this year and kind of take up that project next year. And then we just reduced the capital reserve, and we've just shifted that amount to 2021.
Okay, any questions from council on that 46 and 47? I'm not seeing any. All right. Where do we go from here, Amanda? In terms of general taxation?
So the budget has been presented for you. So where we are is do we continue with this 2.2% levy? There was a $5,000 increase that had been proposed within the transportation. So we can do a drawing from reserve to offset that cost or increase the levy for that additional $5,000. And we need to make a decision on the gas tax funds and the OSIP funding. I will need recommendations from council on approvals of where that money gets spent.
Okay. All right, so we have a list of items, some of which our final discussion on will be after we have our in-camera session. Sue, how do you want to proceed at this point? We kind of know where we're at in terms of having gone through this budget.
If I may suggest, I think at this point we'll go in camera to deal with the issues that are in camera, and then we can come back for discussion.
Okay, is council good with that? Okay, I'll ask first before we do. Does anyone have any questions on any part of the budget you've seen so far, or any concerns, anything specific you wanted to talk about beyond the items we know we have listed? Not seeing anything else. Okay. All right, I'm not sure how this in-camera part's going to work, but I will take us in camera and then I'll let Gwen work her magic. Okay, so at this point, we have an in-camera session. The recommendation is that the meeting enter in-camera session to discuss matters pertaining to the security of the property of the municipality or local board, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, labor relations or employee negotiations, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organizations. Ontario Municipal Act 2001, Chapter 25, Section 239, 2A, B, F, and I. Number 1 will be a report from the treasurer dated January 14th, 2020 regarding the 2004 water and sewer main extension construction costs. Number 2, group benefits renewal dated April 1st, 2020. And number 3, the 2019 overtime report. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Schulis, seconded by Councillor Poplinski. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we are in camera, but I will wait until